the whole concept of switching refrigeration. So I
Yeah.
just, as a guy who doesn't know very much about refrigeration, I just want to pitch it to you. Tell us, in layman's terms, what's the big change going on?
Yeah. Thanks. First of all, thanks guys for having me. I was able to catch the first round with Paul, and I was excited when I got the call after watching it to be guest number two. So I'm excited to talk some ice, but it was also great to just learn a little bit about someone else that I know in the industry. Um, so when it comes to refrigerant, this all happened, I'd say, about 5, 6 years ago, when I guess the word started to spread that certain legislation was going to change, potentially the use of our previous refrigerant, which was R404A, in our merchandisers. And so what really was ultimately driving this was the idea of how do we better take care of our environment. And I think there's two things about R290, which is our new refrigerant, that are entirely true, and that's that one, that it is more eco-friendly, which is what was driving most of this. But in reality, it's a much better refrigerant than 404A. It's much more energy efficient. So over the life cycle of a merchandiser, you're going to cut down on your electrical costs. You're going to cut down on your maintenance costs, and really, it just it is better. But what happened was, it started with the state of California. Starting in January 1st, 2019, they limited the global warming potential of a refrigerant to, I can't remember the exact number. It was somewhere below 1400 at the time. I might have changed a bit. But essentially, it outlawed 404A because 404A was above that global warming potential threshold. And it's since gone moved to below, for California, under 150, as far as global warming potential. So propane is at a 3. 404A is something like, it's over 1500. I can't remember the exact amount. That then over the years expanded in 2020 or 2021. It expanded to, I think there were like 13 states. There's a handful now. And the most recent proposal is that it will move to all 50 states on January 1st, 2025. Um, there is potential that could get pushed back maybe a year, but it's a coming. It's just a matter of when. So we started that transition with California. We ultimately chose not to implement any sort of bridge to R290. There were some other refrigerants that we did test and consider, but we felt it wasn't right to introduce a temporary refrigerant into the industry. And really, it came down to R290 was just the best of the bunch. So it kind of ticked all the boxes for us. So we've been going through that transition. I'd say right now we're up to a little over 40% of what we produce, probably closer to 50%. It's about 50-50, is R290 versus 404A. And our plan is to transition by the end of this year, um,
Okay.
totally to R290.
Yeah,
So
go ahead, please.
so when you're saying that, if folks have boxes out there that are on the old refrigerants, it's not like they have to remove those necessarily. It's just the new ones that are coming out. Is that
No,
correct?
it's all been grandfathered in based on the manufacture date. So it's not even based on ship date. So at least for California, like if it was produced prior to it going into effect, you could still ship it after the fact. And then everything will be grandfathered in. I mean, what will ultimately happen years down the road is it will just become probably a little cost ineffective to kind of maintain that. But you're probably talking years down the road before that hits, but you'll start to see it right away, right? I mean, less people use 404A, you're going to see less and less of it, and with that it drives up the price.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was going to mention. I was just we were showing a second ago, going back over to YouTube that you guys put out several years ago. You and your engineer Brian with Lear. And I was able to go through this YouTube, and it's just really very informative to go through for somebody that I'm not super up on that kind of on the refrigerants and things like that, but it takes you through, talks about the history of the different refrigerants, where you're at. I believe you have another refrigerant that you guys can still use, correct? You guys haven't completely went all R290, is that correct?
Yeah, we're still running 404A. We still do a bit of 134A as well, in some of our applications. So there are some options out there, but the future is R290, and Lear would be the first in the merchandiser business to move to it. But a lot of the stuff you'd see in a Publix, for instance, or any grocery or convenience store chain, they transitioned probably 3 or 4 years before us even. So it's quite common. Even especially internationally in Europe, my understanding is a lot of even the in-home refrigerators are using propane now. So it's pretty common.
Okay. Well, and a part of the video, I know with R290 utilizing propane, you go into talking about that, and is it flammable? And you also talk. It's just a very good video to go through. If you have an opportunity to go in and look at that after this show, of course, don't stop what you're doing right now. Keep the interview. So, but it's just a really good way to do it, and even talk about the flow and the resistance and how much better 290 is.
To make it easy for everyone, we'll put a link in the description of this video on YouTube, at least. I don't know if we can do that on every platform,
right?
But then you can go see what Ben said 3 years ago and find out.
Look a little younger, and
yeah,
yeah. And obviously propane is flammable, but it's not a large amount of propane actually used. I mean, the common example that our engineers would give is it's like the amount of a Bic lighter. So it's not any more flammable than having a lighter in your pocket. But we had to invest a lot into our facility though for leak proofing, and when we're dealing with larger amounts in our facility, it's been significant from a financial and a time aspect. But I think those that have made the switch have been very happy with it, and you're starting to see a lot of retailers drive it, a lot of larger ice companies drive it, and frankly, there were some of the independent ice companies that were early adopters as well. So it's been very receptive.
This video is just a clip from a longer full-length video. If you'd like to go watch that one, I'm going to post it right up here so you can go watch that next. If you're enjoying the content, why don't you go ahead and subscribe? We'll catch you in the next one.